Hey, hi, Priyanshu.
Yeah, hi sir.
Hi, hi, hi. Welcome to 6 p.m. live show. So we are glad you are here right now with us. So without wasting any time, let's just dive back to questions we have for you. So let me just shoot down all those questions, right? So we'll just start with the first question. So what is the current crypto taxation scenario before 1st of April 2022 and right now?
Yeah, so basically the crypto taxation scenario if we talk about per se, like there was a new term introduced in Finance Act 2022. By the budget session, they introduced a new term called virtual digital asset or VDA. So VDA intended to cover cryptos, NFTs, and other digital assets, which are being backed by blockchain primarily in its definition. So post this session, they introduced a section also called Section 115 BBH in the Income Tax Act. So the section intended that all the digital assets, all the VDAs per se, virtual digital assets, shall be taxed at the rate of 30%. And so also new laws were introduced. Section 115 BBH basically uh, you know, came up with new regulations also. So some regulations were harsh for the industry, and there was a little bit setback also. Like Section 115 BBH particularly has barred, that you cannot claim any loss from one VDA cannot be claimed against the income of another VDA. And similarly, if there is any other loss from any other head, like income tax generally allows a set of, and if you have loss in any particular head and there is income in any other head, subject to some regulations, there is allowance of such set of. But in this case, they said that you cannot take the benefit of loss. If you have incurred any loss in the VDA, you cannot set it off against the income. So that was, a little bit of like setback. And also there was another thing that they allowed you to have the cost of acquisition deducted, but they disallowed any other sort of expenditure other than cost of acquisition. So that was not allowed to be deducted against the income. So whole of the scenario was introduced by this budget session 2022, and it all came into act after 1st April 2022. Before that, normal provisions were there, and so like normal provisions of income tax, like they were applying to any other income. The income from VDA was also to be taxed in the same manner.
Right. So one thing which is uncertain about this particular taxation is, let's say, for example, I transfer my cryptos from one particular exchange to another, let's say from Binance to Coinbase, vice versa, or to any other exchanges. So is that thing taxable? Like, is there a transfer between exchange to exchange taxable?
Mhm. Okay, so if we talk about transfer of like cryptos you are holding in one wallet to another wallet, so transfer of cryptos from your one wallet to another wallet held by the same person, like same user, that should not be taxable. But if you are transferring it to another person, then there is a there is a event and there is a taxability which arises. So taxable event will basically occur when there is a transfer from one person to another.
So how does this exchange counts? Like exchange is counted as person to person, or it's kind of transferable between one firm to another?
No, basically we have to see the user here. So Income Tax Act will consider an entity. So an entity or a person, like let's say I am transferring it to you. If I am transferring it from, like it's similar, you can say like transferring from one of my bank account to another of my bank account. So you can basically equate it there. Uh, if there is, if none of the international regulations apply or if there is no such thing happening, so uh, assuming that there are no other laws coming into play, we talk purely from the taxation point of view. So transferring from one wallet of a same user to another wallet of a same user, it doesn't matter whether on the same exchange or on another exchange.
Okay, I think that solves the issue. So one more question is like,
Hmm.
Let's say I am staking some of my cryptos and I'm receiving a monthly staking rewards or kind of a yearly
Hmm.
staking rewards. So how is that staking reward taxable, or is it taxable at all?
Okay, so basically, if we talk about staking first, so since here some of the audience will want, I would like to like emphasize on what is staking exactly. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me technically also. So
Yeah, sure.
if we are talking about staking here, so staking is something basically that I am in the for the Ethereum protocol. I think 32 Ethereum has been set as the basic staking amount. So like we stake something and then we get the validation rights to validate the next block. Okay, so staking operates that way. But to talk about that, staking rewards, yes, they would constitute the income of the person. Like if I am staking something, like let's take an example of Ethereum protocol. If I'm staking, let's say on Ethereum protocol, then yes, if I'm depositing that staking amount into the Ethereum smart contract, deposit contract, yes, I'll be liable. Whatever rewards I get, whatever staking rewards I receive, I'll be liable to pay income tax on it. But there are certain issues revolving around it. So staking, can be staking is of like variety types, like solo staking or staking via liquidating this via staking pools or staking through centralized exchanges. So if I talk about solo staking, if we take solo staking as an example, so what happens is that if I am into solo staking and I have I'll be receiving the rewards. I think every 6 minutes, like if epoch time is 6 minutes, or or like there'll be a frequency, there'll be high frequency on which rewards will be there. So the problem here is that what exchange rate should be taken, like at what point, like exchange rate prevailing at what point of time should be taken, and what should be the measure of the exchange rate, like whether we'll take the exchange rate of Binance, whether it will be from CoinDCX or Coinbase, like which exchange rate should be taken and what should be the time or period of it. Like if I have been receiving the in India, the income tax frequency is like for a year, like from April 22 to March 23 would be the financial year 22-23, for which the taxability will be there. So I'll be receiving the staking rewards whole year long. So
Right.
exchange rate, at what point of time should be taken, and when it should be converted. That's the main issue which will be there in these cases. Normally, I think that most of the people are availing centralized, like they are staking through centralized exchange services, uh, like CoinDCX or any other exchange. So if they are staking through those exchanges, they'll be receiving the rewards through the exchange only. And in those cases, we can take a liberal approach that at whatever point of time we receive the rewards, and in whatever exchange we receive the rewards, maybe we can take the amount or the exchange rate prevailing at that time. But obviously, some clarification from the government is still needed on this theme, on these aspects, because since there is a lot of confusion on these things, like, because of the variety of this transaction, because of the nature of this transaction, we do need some clarifications.
Right. So let's say I'm getting an income from cryptos, may it be staking or any kind of thing.
Mhm.
So under which head of income should crypto be declared?
Okay. So basically, there are three heads of income which will be relevant for this. Otherwise, there are five heads in Income Tax Act for Indian scenario. But I think there will be three heads which will be relevant for this. Income under the head profit and gains of business or profession, which we call PGBP. Then income from the head capital gains, and then income from other sources. Okay,
Okay.
so if we talk about all of these things, one is PGBP, one is capital gain, and one is income from other sources. So PGBP would be relevant in the case where there is income from the business activities. So business would constitute, like if I'm taking up this activity very frequently, if I'm if there is a frequency, if there is a consistency, if there is a continuity of the activity which I'm doing, like we can take the example of crypto traders. So if I'm taking it as a business, then then income earned would obviously go under that PGBP. On the contrary, let's say if I am this is not my business, I have invested some amount and I look forward to earn from it as a sort of investment. Uh, I have just invested the amount from the long term perspective. or I'm investing, but I'm not that frequent. So then it goes under the head of capital gains. So either it will be my business, and if not, I'll be if it will be my business, I'll be holding it in the nature of trade. I can put it that way, that we will be holding it in the nature of trade. If not this, then obviously it will be held as capital asset for me. Okay, it will be something which will be a sort of asset for me. Then I can take it under the head capital gains, and there will be some incomes if which cannot be put in both. Then you can take it an income from other sources. Like example of it can be, I think, income on from interest on lending. Not in every
Right.
case it will go there, but in some cases, depending upon the scenario, it can go there. Obviously, it will it will depend on what the exact scenario is there with the SSE. So these are the three heads which will be relevant
So since
for
you,
trying to
since you talked about the lending, interest on lending taxability, so can you
Hmm.
explain more on the taxability on the interest of lending?
Yeah. So lending basically works like majorly nowadays. If we talk about the SSE take like using the lending option, and most of this is happening on centralized exchanges. Like they are able to lend out any of the cryptos which they are holding for a specified rate of interest and for a specified period of time, which is pre-decided. And at the end of that specified period, they are receiving some amount as the interest on that crypto being lent. So the taxability of it, let's form an example. Let's say that I received some 1 lakh worth of Ethereum in financial year 22-23
Hmm.
as an income from the interest, as an income of interest from lending. Okay, so it is in financial year 22-23. And let's suppose that the worth of Ethereum is 1 lakh. And I am not selling it, I'm holding those Ethereum.
Okay.
So the interest on 1 lakh will be will be imposed in the financial year 22-23 itself, since it
Right.
formed my income. And
Right.
let's say I was holding those Ethereums, and I sold them in next year, financial year 23-24, like next year. And at that time, the value of that Ethereum was 1,50,000. So then the taxability will be there on the balance of that 50,000. So this is one of the liberal approach which we can take in this scenario. But again, since it is one of nitty-gritties of crypto transactions, and again, there is no clarification on it as of now. This is one of the like you can say the discussed treatment, or adopted treatment being discussed in the industry. But I think, like again, there is a need for clarification on this, because the issue here arises that what shall be the rate of interest, what shall be the rate of tax when the income is received. It's fine that section 115 BBH specifically says that when you're transferring that Ethereum, you can tax it at the rate of 30%. But what shall be the tax what shall be the tax rate when you are receiving it? So ideally, if we go by the words of law, we can take it under the normal slab rate also, or we should take it at the rate of 30%. So there is a lot of clarity which is, yet pending on this. But yes, if we need to do some treatment, then maybe we can take this liberal approach depending upon the situation, obviously, because every treatment, which we are discussing here, and all other treatments which are, being put up in the industry, they're out. They all are very, subjective. I would like to put up this here that they are very subjective, because even a transaction, if any leg of the transaction changes, the treatment would surely change.
Okay. So there is one more thing where you said that the taxation while receiving the cryptos. So what if someone airdrops me some of the tokens? So will I, as a recipient, be taxed on those things?
Okay, so airdrop is something basically which which like user will receive either out of some consideration, like out of some activity which you would have done on the social media for the new projects being coming up there, or because of any past activity which you would have done already. So airdrop basically, yes, airdrop is taxable, but there are two possible views being taken up by the tax professionals in this case. So the one is that you flat like directly tax it under section 56 to 10. So it is a section where you get the benefit like of not getting taxed up to rupees 50,000. So this section
Okay.
provides you the threshold of 50,000 that if you are receiving anything, like if you are receiving any consideration without paying anything, in like up to 50,000, then there is no need to pay tax. But if you are receiving it in excess of 10,000, then you need to, or 50,000, then you need to pay tax. So that is section 56 to 10. So that is one view. But the another view being taken up, the another issue being put up there is that if someone is into the business of cryptos, if someone is into this line, into this industry and has taken this as his business or profession, then there is another section, section 28(4), and that section basically applies for the any benefit or perquisite which is received in the course of business or profession, and there is no threshold for it. So if we discuss like as there is a lack of clarity, and if we discuss it as of now, so if any person is receiving out of just his normal activities, and if it is not in the course of his business or profession, and if all the requirements of section 56 to 10 get satisfied, then he shall be eligible for the threshold, and then that income from airdrop can go there. And if he is receiving that in the nature of his business or profession, and if the require, if the that eligibility of section 28(4) gets satisfied, and if that income falls there, then there will be no threshold for that person, and he'll have to pay tax directly on that income, like whole of that income received. So that will be taxable. But yes, airdrop would be taxable depending upon the situation.
I think that pretty much clears up most of the part of the taxation which we just learned about. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the Indian crypto taxation in the recent days.
I think Indian crypto taxation regime is still in a very nascent stage, and there are a lot of developments, still needed and even expected by the people. Like uh, recently, there has been two circulars issued for clarity on TDS, on the virtual digital assets. So
Right.
these sorts of circulars, these sorts of clarifications, they are needed. Like more of them are needed. Uh, they some changes, like the clarifications which were issued, they were being welcomed by the industry. But there are some issues, I think, which which need there are some strictness, or there is some harshness which needs to be relaxed. Like 1% TDS on crypto, like transfer, like 1% TDS on this transfer, it can severely hamper the trading industry per se. So, like that is the thing. The harsh set of policies basically which has been laid out by the act. No set off is being allowed, no deduction other than cost of acquisition is being allowed. There are a lot of other expenditures also. So I think government needs to ease out some of these restrictions to help this budding industry in India.
Right, because I just wanted to ask you one more thing. Where do you feel that the 30% taxation is good or bad with respect to current scenario? What's your
See,
opinion on those taxation?
mm, see, 30% tax rate per se, if we see it directly, it seems to be like it looks like it's too much. But on if we see on like Indian taxation scenario, there has been a 30% tax on the corporate sector. Since beginning,
Right.
corporate sector, 30% tax is there if you incorporate a private limited company in India. And most of the crypto projects, most of if we leave individuals aside, most of new startups, most of these new ventures, they are being incorporated as private limited company. So I think 30% taxation was not a problem that much, as it is, those harsh set of policies just that discussed about. So those harsh set of policies, not allowing expenditure reductions, these are the things, which are like more pain for the industry, I think.
Okay, I get it. So what are your final thoughts on how the taxation is going on right in India? and what do you see in future, like how it will be getting developed? Like, do you think that things will get stable in near future, or it's gonna be same as right now?
See, what I think is that government is trying to work on this Web3 and blockchain domain, and the kind of particularities which you will see in in the new TDS circulars, you can say that yes, they are trying to work. They are trying to bring up you know like they're trying to bring up relaxations as they can provide or as much as is possible given the scenarios. We need to be patient about it. We need to we have to keep that level of patience since till government can understand whole of this thing. They can formulate the laws around this because there will be a lot of regulations forming for this. If we leave aside taxation, there has to be other IP laws. The Information Technology Act would also need some of amendment I think because all of this thing is revolving around there. So, like, how a common person who would be venturing into this domain should stay safe. So that's the primary responsibility for the government. I think if we, like, going forward, obviously there is a whole lot of opportunities for India in this. Uh, like for artists in the form of digital arts or NFTs, we have seen
Right.
recently that there is a lot of budding talent in India in the form of development for Web3 developers, in the form of artists for digital arts being put out there in NFTs. So yeah, we can wait. We need to give that bandwidth to the country to have something for us. But in the long run, I think that India will be a good hub for this industry, and I also expect that government will provide some relaxations, to help this industry grow even much better. So we
Yeah, even
can be optimistic about it.
right. And even I hope that governments will provide some relief with respect to these taxations. So I think it was a nice conversation we had right now, and I think people will love it when it gets uploaded right now. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, man.